Hello and welcome to the Disability Law Show. John Scholes right beside me, Sivan Tumarkin. Welcome to the show. Once again, I'll give you some contact details before we even get started. help@disabilityrights.ca, the email address, and 1-855-821-5900 and mydisabilityquestions.com. That is a place where you can go, ask your questions, type them in. There's a searchable database. I'll tell you that right off the top. You can search for a question similar to yours. If it has been answered, read the response. If not, leave it there. Sivan and his team will get to it. Lots to get through today, Sivan, including 3 things you must do if you're struggling to work because of depression. That is on the way, but a situation that came by recently on your desk. What do you got for us, pal?
Yeah, John, you know, it's been a busy week, a busy few weeks and few months, especially now that everybody's still hunkering down because of COVID. I can tell you I still receive tons of emails and phone calls from across the country from individuals who are on long-term disability or have applied for long-term disability insurance and have gotten denied by their insurance companies. And by the way, John, sometimes it's the family members or colleagues, people who don't necessarily need this information for themselves, but know someone for which this is helpful. If you're one of those people, please let the person you know who needs this information know about this show and about the website, because there's a lot of good information to help people deal with their insurance company. So let me tell you about one particular issue that came up this week, and it keeps coming up over and over, but this one was very stark. I received an email from an individual. He's out in British Columbia, where we have offices. And this person is in his early 40s. He has 4 children, 2 of which are under 10. He's the main bread earner for the family. He's in the IT field, was earning 6-figure salary, over $100,000. Before he had some issues. He had a death in the family and a few other issues that led to major depression. And so he's been seeing a psychotherapist for quite a few months. And, he told his employer actually suggested, you know what, go on short-term disability. And they put him on short-term, they paid it. And then when it was time for him to get long-term disability, to do the switch, he made the application, and the insurance company that he applied to through work, through the group benefits plan, denied his long-term disability application on the basis of insufficient medical documentation. So essentially, the insurance company said there is insufficient stuff there in your application to persuade us that you should be getting long-term disability. And that's despite the fact that his psychotherapist had written an extensive report explaining why this person was unable to go to work for the time being, why that person needed to be off work and focus on getting better psychologically. The family doctor also wrote a very strong letter in support of him being off work. Despite those letters, the insurance company denied that claim. And I reviewed those letters, John. I reviewed the deny letter. It didn't make any sense to me. And this is something that comes up quite often, where insurance companies fire back a letter or an email to a claimant saying there's just insufficient medical proof, insufficient documentation to prove that you are disabled from working, when in fact the people treating these claimants, the doctors, the psychologists, psychiatrists, whoever, they write explicitly that these individuals are disabled from working. Functionally, they cannot function in their role, in their job, and yet the insurance companies deny these claims. And what happens, as happened here, is individuals who are faced with such a denial think that their only option is to appeal that decision. And this is what this person did. And so while he was emailing me, he's in the middle of an appeal. And the reason he emailed me is because his cousin actually caught the show and told him to email me. And so I told him, listen, don't worry about the appeal. I mean, let it go through if you want. But the reality is they'll deny you. They'll deny you again and again and again, because these appeals are absolutely useless. When you're appealing a long-term disability denial, I've said this many times before, you are appealing to the exact same people, the same company, the insurance company that denied your claim in the first place. And so people ask, well, what's the alternative? Well, I'll tell you what it is. It's a legal claim against the insurance company, because when we initiate a legal claim, the insurance company understands that we've taken the power from their hands to make a final decision. When you're appealing a denial, the final decision, the determination as to whether or not to approve your claim rests with the adjuster or rests with the committee within the insurance company organization. It doesn't rest with a third party. A legal claim does something completely different. it takes the power away from them. They understand that if they don't come to the table to negotiate in good faith, they may end up in court and may end up in front of a very angry judge. So for that reason, very few of these kinds of cases, John, ever go to court because insurance companies would rather try resolve the claim, which is what happens. And again, we deal with these kinds of cases each and every day. So after he emailed me and we had a chat, I think he felt a lot better, and we're going to help him. It's not going to be difficult to resolve his claim. In fact, I foresee that within a matter of weeks, months at most, we can probably get this claim resolved, get the insurance company to pay him what he's owed.
So why, with the backing of 2 doctors, why does the insurance company still insist on cutting them off, saying not enough medical documentation? I mean, are they just playing the odds that 9 out of 10 people they do this to will just give up?
That's exactly what I keep saying, that's what they're doing, and that's what I think that they're doing. Now, listen, some insurance companies will say, no, that's not what we're doing. In good faith, we're trying to judge these claims on their merits. Well, excuse me, when you have doctors who are not just writing on a piece of a napkin, that this person is sick and that's it, when they actually provide you with in-depth reports, pages and pages, where they give you their medical opinions, and you ignore those opinions and simply shoot back a simple letter saying it's just insufficient, what does that mean? What does that mean? I mean, at the end of the day, think about this. This individual got 2 strong letters. What else do they want? And you're right. Listen, they expect people to either walk away from these claims, just give up, in which case all this money that's owed to him is going to stay in the insurance company's pockets, or they are betting that the person will go through the appeal process and get denied over and over and over. And again, the result is the same. They're not going to have to pay anything. And that's just the reality situation, and that's what happens. That is literally what happens. And I can tell you, John, since we started this show years ago, I've been contacted by numerous individuals who have only become aware of their rights and of this information, and then they email me and call me and say, look, I had a claim 5 years ago. That's what happened to me. I never did anything about it because I never thought I could. And they say, can you help? And I said, well, no, there's a 2-year limitation period for starting these legal claims. So it's really important that you don't sit on it, that you take action right now, because this money is owed to you, and there is a legal mechanism in place that we can utilize to force your insurer to pay you what you are owed.
You can send an email to Sivan or his team anytime you want, help@disabilityrights.ca. First email for the day, Sivan, comes from our pal Trevor. He says, I hired a lawyer to handle my claim for a car accident that happened almost 2 years ago. I hurt my back and tried rehab, but I'm not getting better. My doctor told me that surgery is an option, but there's no guarantee my pain will improve. I applied for LTD benefits and was denied. My lawyer said he would only help me if I exhausted all my appeals. I've now appealed twice, and they rejected my claim both times. Am I allowed to hire a new lawyer? Preferably one that does disability law.
Yeah, unequivocally, yes, you are allowed to hire another lawyer. And I can tell you right now that the fact that this lawyer wasted all this time, to me, is a travesty. John, this past week, I also, just for fun, Googled some other lawyers' websites, and I came across a lawyer who advertises quite a lot that he practices long-term disability. And I saw on his website a section of his website that's called the ABCs of appealing your long-term disability denial.
Come on.
Now listen, it's a free country. He can put whatever he wants there. But to me, that is absolutely ludicrous. Why waste your time with these appeals when these are not effective? And for this lawyer to tell this person, look, let's go through these appeals, or you go through these appeals, and when they're exhausted, we'll figure out what we do next. No, why? Why? This person had this accident 2 years ago. John, when somebody comes to me and says, I was cut off or denied long-term disability a year ago, and I've gone through 2 appeals and I was denied both appeals, can you help me? I say to them 2 things. Number 1, yes, I can help you. Number 2, had you come to me when you were first denied or cut off your benefits, I probably would have resolved your claim by now. So again, time is of the essence. Many lawyers either don't understand this or don't care for whatever reason. And so, the answer is you got to go to someone, a firm that has a focus on long-term disability, which is the kind of stuff that we do. We don't practice family law. We don't practice real estate law, tax law, immigration. We only do disability and employment law. Those are the 2 areas. And you know what? Other lawyers, insurance companies, employers, they know our firm. They know our firm's name. It carries weight. Right? That reputation precedes us. And when you come to us and we help you, our reputation then works for you. Our resources work for you. So yes, you can absolutely switch lawyers if you think that's the best course. I can tell you that the fact that your lawyer wasted all this time, in my mind, is just very unfortunate, because clearly that would create significant stress on you and your family. I'll be more than happy to speak with you, but certainly you have a legal cause of action against the insurance company here, and you should exercise it.
Let's take a short break, pal. We'll get right back to it. To reach out for you too as well, Trevor, I know you know the email, help@disabilityrights.ca, but 1-855-821-5900. Coming up here, 3 things you must do if you're struggling to work because of depression. That is on the way. It's a Disability Law Show. Stick around.
You lost your job. They only gave you 2 weeks of severance per year worked. But where can you find out what you're really owed?
I'm going to severancepaycalculator.com.
Find out how much you're owed right now. severancepaycalculator.com.
If your long-term disability claim is denied, should you appeal?
Appeals often fail because insurance companies control the process. So long as you appeal, you're playing by their rules.
You should never appeal the denial of your disability benefits. Appeals are just a mirage of false hope.
Don't. That's their process. Take it out of their hands and fight for your rights with our help.
Go to disabilityrights.ca. Discover your rights, fight back, and get what you're owed.
You lost your job. They said they had a good reason, but you think you've been wrongfully dismissed. Now what are you going to do?
I'm going to employmentlawyer.ca.
Always check with the employment lawyer first at employmentlawyer.ca.
And welcome back, Disability Law Show. John Scholes, Sivan Tumarkin, reaching out. Real simple, help@disabilityrights.ca. That is the email address, 1-855-821-5900, and mydisabilityquestions.com. We'll pop all that on the bottom of the screen as we continue through here. Sivan, 3 things you got to get to, 3 things you need to do if you're struggling to work because of depression. Number 1 is this: don't ignore it. Speak with your doctor and get a referral to a mental health professional. We're talking psychologist, psychotherapist, psychologist, stuff like that, right?
John, I don't know. This advice cannot be more relevant now with COVID, and with the fact that we keep hearing from experts who are sounding the alarm, about the effects of this pandemic, the isolation, the anxiety, the depression, everything that is happening, not only to individuals who've lost their jobs, but to families, to children, etc. It's absolutely key that you get the help you need. And there are 2 aspects to this. There's the legal aspect, which I'll get to in a second, but the medical aspect too. I'm not a doctor, but it seems to me that if you have an issue like that, you're suffering from a psychological illness, a depression, for example, you should get help for it. How are you going to get better? Some people can get better by themselves. They can figure out what they need to do, and they do it, and somehow they get out of it, which is great. Some people need help, and that's okay. You should speak with someone. You should get the help you need. So from a medical standpoint, that's just common sense to me. From a legal standpoint, I can tell you this. If you're suffering from depression or any other psychological illness or disorder, a disabling condition like that, if you don't seek help for that and you apply for long-term disability, your claim will not be as strong as if you already are getting the help. Just from an optics standpoint, if I'm an insurance company and I'm getting 2 applications in parallel, both from individuals who are suffering from depression who say they cannot work, but one of them has been seeing a psychologist or a psychotherapist or a psychiatrist for a few months, and one of them that has been seeing their family doctor once every 3 months. If I'm the insurance company receiving these applications, presumably I'm thinking that the one application where the person is seeing someone, a psychologist or a psychiatrist, is going to be stronger, because clearly the person is actually seeking help, professional help, whereas you would think, again, optically, that the person who is not getting that help, perhaps their condition is not as bad as the person who is getting help. So, there is a medical reason, obviously a health reason, why you should get the help you need, but there's also that legal reason, because from an optics standpoint, your case is that much stronger with an insurance company if you do have someone on your side that's treating you and can support your application for disability.
Second thing you need to do is follow your prescribed treatments, be that seeing a therapist, going for those sessions, or medication for that matter.
That's absolutely crucial. Virtually every LTD policy out there contains provisions that specify that in order to be, in order to get long-term disability benefits and continue getting them, you have to show that you are following prescribed treatments, that you are trying to get better. It's the mitigation principle in law. The principle essentially says that, if you are suffering a loss, if you have an injury, something like that is happening to you, you have an obligation to try and get better, to lessen that loss or injury or damage. And so if you're not getting help, or if you have someone who is providing that help to you and telling you what to do and you're not following those treatments, you are in jeopardy of being in breach of those provisions under the policy. And the insurance company may take the position that you are in breach of those provisions, you're not getting the treatments, you're not following the prescribed treatments, and then cut you off benefits. Now, I want to make something clear here, though. Some individuals contact me sometimes and say, look, I've been told to take this particular medication, but I've taken it once or twice and it makes me sick and I can't do it. I'm afraid that if I stop taking this medication, the insurance company is going to say what you said, which is, I'm not following prescribed treatments, and they're going to cut me off. It's very easy to rectify that. Have a discussion with whoever's treating you, whether it's your family doctor, whether it's your psychologist, psychiatrist, whoever it is that's prescribed the treatment or medication. Explain to them the effect that it has on you and work out with them some kind of an alternative treatment. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no obligation that you have under the policy to undergo treatments that are doing harm to you by taking medications, for example, that make you feel bad. But you do have an obligation to follow prescribed treatment. So simply speak with your healthcare professional about what treatments make sense for you individually, and then follow those treatments. And then the insurance company will have no reason to cut you off on the basis of not following those treatments.
And finally, the third thing you got to do, Sivan, if you're struggling with depression and it's causing you to miss work or having trouble at work, is apply for your coverage, be it short-term, be it long-term, whether it's private or through work. And if you're denied for any of those, always reach out to you guys.
And again, that seems common sense, right?
Yeah.
But, I think not a week goes by without me answering a question either on the Disability Questions website or somebody emailing me or calling me, telling me, I don't know what to do. I'm having difficulty because of my back, because of depression, something that is disabling the person from working, and the person doesn't know what to do. They're asking us, both me and Lior, should I tell my employer that I need to go on sick leave? Do I need to go to unemployment insurance? Should I just take time off without pay? And, we ask them, well, do you have disability coverage? And many people are not aware that they have disability coverage through their group benefits plan at work, right? If you have benefits that cover you for massage, for physio, things like that, chiropractic care, medications, dentistry, very likely that you probably have short-term and or long-term disability coverage too. Apply to those benefits if you need them, if they're there for you. Don't forget, the insurance companies were being paid premiums for weeks, months, if not years, allowing you to access those kinds of benefits. Now, of course, if you apply for those and you get denied, that's when you call us immediately so we can help you. But don't ignore those. John, short-term disability benefits typically pay anywhere from 80% of your pre-disability income up to 100%. LTD, that typically pays 60%. I've seen it as high as 80% of your pre-disability income. Generally it's about 2/3 of your income, about 66%, 67% of your pre-disability income is covered by LTD. Go ahead and access those. Make those applications. If in fact you need those, that's what they're there for. They're the safety net that you paid for or that your company paid for.
Can my insurance company pressure me going back to work? We will tackle that, but first we'll take a short break. You want to reach out, 1-855-821-5900, help@disabilityrights.ca. And we'll also go back to mydisabilityquestions.com. That is there for you to use as well. Disability Law Show continues. Stick around.
You were being harassed, and when you said something about it, you're the one who lost your job. Now what are you going to do?
I'm going to employmentlawyer.ca.
Always check with the employment lawyer first at employmentlawyer.ca. How do you force insurance companies to pay long-term disability claims?
Insurance companies deny legitimate claims all the time. They're playing the odds. They know that most people are just going to walk away.
Your insurer may ignore you. They may even ignore your doctors, but they can't ignore us.
We know how insurance companies work. We know their weaknesses. We know how to use the legal process to force them to pay you what you're owed.
Go to disabilityrights.ca. Discover your rights, fight back, and get what you're owed.
You thought you had a secure job. You didn't see it coming. Now what do you do?
I'm going to employmentlawyer.ca.
Always check with the employment lawyer first at employmentlawyer.ca.
And welcome back. Thanks for hanging around. Disability Law Show with Sivan Tumarkin. Want to get into more of your questions? So reach out though anytime. 1-855-821-5900. Help at disabilityrights.ca as well. Sivan, another one from mydisabilityquestions.com. That is also a free website. You can ask your questions anytime. Searchable database. There's a fairly decent probability that your question has been asked and answered in depth. If not, leave it there. Our Savannah members team will get to it. Carol this time writes in. Savannah says, I'm currently on LTD due to stress from work and severe grief after my father passed away. My insurance is pushing me towards a return to work and seem to be implying that my benefits will be cut off soon. Can they force me to go back to work when I don't feel ready to do so? Do I have the right to refuse?
This is, again, a very common question. And you know, John, let's just make sure that our viewers are aware of the proper terminology. Remember that the insurance company cannot force you. I'm underlining the word force. They cannot force you to go back to work. No one's going to come to your home, drag you out, and plunk you back at the office or wherever it is you were working before your disability started. What they can do, and this is what they do often, is they try and pressure you. They try and pressure you to try and go back. And often they do this before you're ready and before your doctors give you clearance to go back to work. And the short answer is, no, they cannot do that. They do it often, but they're not allowed to do that. And the reality is that if they are telling you you have to go back to work by a certain date, or else they're going to cut off your benefits, then they are in breach of the policy. They're in breach of their obligations under the contract of insurance that you have with them. I want to make that clear. Insurance companies can't do whatever they want. If you are unable to go back to work at this point in time, you know you're not able, you know you're not ready, you know you're going to fail if you try, and your doctors agree with you, you have no obligation to try that return to work program, especially when you know that it's going to harm you. And so what I tell people to do, John, in these situations is make sure that you go to your doctors or whoever's treating you and you get an updated letter or report that explains why, in their opinion, not in yours, in their opinion, a return to work program at this point is premature and that you would be reassessed in X amount of months, 3 months, 6 months, whatever your health practitioner thinks. Provide that letter to your adjuster in writing via email and explain that you are not ready to return to work, that you are concerned that if you try to return now, it's going to cause you harm and you're going to regress in your progress in trying to get better. If the insurance company, if the adjuster, despite all that, tells you that by so-and-so date they're going to cut off your benefits, you call us immediately. Because we're going to be able to push back on the insurance company, and oftentimes we can have them go back, retract on their threat. And I'll tell you this, if they don't, and they say despite that they're going to cut you off, then we'll hit them with a legal claim because they're not allowed to do that. They're not allowed to stop your benefits on the basis of them wanting you to go back to work, overriding what your doctors are saying. They cannot do that. If they do it, we can help you. Give us a call. Email us, let's get in touch, or post your question, as John said, on the Disability Questions website. John, I'm telling you, I have answered so many questions in this context. This is the absolute worst case scenario for many people right now on COVID. Yeah. Not only are they disabled and unable to go back to work for one reason or another, but given the state of the pandemic right now, they feel like it's a double whammy. Not only are they told your benefits are going to end, but they're told you're going to have to go to work now in the middle of the surge of the virus and everything else happening. So no, we can help people. We've helped many people resolve these kinds of claims. It's really not difficult for us.
I think we got enough time to slide Gary's email in here, so we'll do that again. It is help@disabilityrights.ca, help@disabilityrights.ca. Gary writes in, says, my best friend is a paramedic and has been struggling with depression for years. Earlier this year, he was called to a shooting and was traumatized by what he saw. He started seeing a psychologist shortly after and is on medication and sick leave. He has tried twice to return to work, which has angered his supervisor. He applied for long-term disability but was denied because the insurer doesn't think that he is totally disabled. What can I do to help him?
Absolutely crazy, John, that we see emails like this. You know, it makes me furious. And, you know, kudos to Gary for writing to us on behalf of his friend. Gary, look, we can help your friend. The fact that he was denied disability on the premise that he's not, quote unquote, totally disabled, I mean, that's absolute nonsense. Remember that total disability or totally disabled in the LTD context is a made up phrase. It's something the insurance industry has created to confuse people, I think. And I say that because that's what it does. It confuses individuals, claimants, doctors. It confuses them. When you hear the term totally disabled, you think that means complete shutdown. It means, you know, brain dead. It means that you have to be in a coma or you have to have all your limbs amputated. I mean, that's not the case. Total disability in the LTD context simply means that you're unable to perform the essential functions of your occupation if it's for the first 2 years. Beyond the 2-year mark, the test changes. The test is, can you perform the essential tasks of any occupation for which you're suited for by training, education, or experience. Now, in Gary's friend situation, who's a paramedic, I mean, he witnessed something horrible. I can see definitely how, you know, he would be disabled from that, at least for a certain period of time. Look, we can help him. We can absolutely help him. We've dealt with cases like this many, many times. Every member of my team is equipped to help Gary's friend here. And what we would do initially is we would have a discussion with him, review all of the pertinent medical information, any reports that were given to the insurance company, the denial letter, and we would simply explain to him that the next step is starting that legal claim against the insurance company, because that's what creates the leverage over the insurance company's head. That's what forces them to come to the table and negotiate a resolution. They understand that if we start that legal claim and they don't come to the table, they're going to have to spend a lot of money on their lawyers defending this case. And they also know that eventually they'll have to pay it anyways. They'll have to pay Gary's friend. But it takes, you know, the expertise and the know-how that my team brings to the table and the resources and the reputation to force the insurance company to the table. If you try and do it yourself, chances are you're going to give up, or that the insurance company is going to run circles around you. That's what they do. That's what they're betting on. What they're hoping you're not going to do is they're hoping you're not going to contact us. When you do contact us and we get into the picture, again, we resolve these kinds of claims quite quickly and very often.
You know, that term totally disabled, it's a beauty. Whoever coined that one for the insurance industry should be able to retire on it, because it must shake off 90% of people coming back. Oh, I'm not totally disabled. I can still feed myself and function and shower and do all the hygiene things, but I'm not totally disabled, even though they have no chance of doing their job. It's a wonderful term for the insurance company. It's
a fantastic term. It's a gimmick. It's a phrase that is worth probably millions of dollars, because that's how much money I think insurance companies have made on this phrase. And I'm not even saying it in the context of individuals that don't understand what that means. You know, I've said this before and I'll say it again. Doctors tell their patients, don't bother even applying for long-term disability because you're not totally disabled. Because the doctors don't understand what total disability means in the context, again, in the context of long-term disability. It doesn't mean what they think it means. When a doctor says to you, John, that so-and-so person is totally disabled, presumably what they mean is that this person can't feed themselves, as you put it, can't take care of themselves, can't walk, all that kind of stuff. In the context of long-term disability, the bar is much lower. It's not that. It's simply that you cannot do the essential tasks of your own occupation or any occupation, depending on where you are in the policy. So again, if you have any questions about that, contact us. It costs nothing to speak to me or any member of my team. As long as we give you the information you need to make the decision on how to proceed, we've done our job. Again, it costs you nothing. Or go to that website, the mydisabilityquestions.com website, post your question for free, and I will answer it.
Yeah, mydisabilityquestions.com. We use that quite often on the show. And again, go there anytime. Searchable database. You can see if your question has already been asked. If not, leave it there. As Sivan says, he or a member of his team will get to it and give you a lengthy answer that'll answer all of your questions. Have the email option as well. We use that every show. That is help@disabilityrights.ca, help@disabilityrights.ca. And the phone number, 1-855-821-5900. There's all kinds of options there for you to reach out. If there's something you want to hear about or talk about on the show, you can email Sivan and his crew, and we'll bring that up at a later date as well. Thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you next time on the Disability Law Show.